Really,
Thank you.
it's good to have a chat with you again.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much, and welcome to everybody that's here. I hope we can share some practical digital marketing advice.
Excellent. Let's start with your entrepreneurial journey first, maybe just your journey, personal journey. Where did you grow up? And then how did you get into entrepreneurship?
So I'm not going to tell you where I'm from. That's definitely not for public discussion. No, so I was born in Joburg, and I've been in digital marketing for my entire life, so the last 15 years, and I've done digital marketing in Joburg for award-winning agencies like Glue and Hello Computer and all the sorts. And I was part of that movement when digital wasn't really a thing. Facebook didn't really exist then. I don't know if you guys remember, but the first banner ads that was ever out was Madonna in the back of a BMW being flung around, and nobody understood where people were going to see this thing. Literally just grew up in this interesting online space and saw it kind of like form. Facebook then started coming out. We then saw there's definitely potential in Facebook, and we built Facebook ads, and people would pay us for Facebook's ads. Facebook eventually caught onto that and said, they wanted the money for themselves. So had a very long career in digital marketing and a really good understanding. But as I moved through the industry, I think one of the things that I really found is that in my heart, I think I was born an entrepreneur. You know, when you don't really fit into an organization, everything you say and suggest seems so outside of the box. Nobody really gets it.
Yeah. Those people are unemployable.
Yes, they are totally unemployable. And then eventually, in my 30s, I decided to take the leap and start my own digital agency, and I ran that for a couple of years. And then, as everybody does, I took a sabbatical to decide, what am I going to do and where am I going to go? And in that time, I built a Land Rover, a classic Series 1 Land Rover. And then in that process, I realized, I have these different skills and all sorts, and that kind of took me back to, well, why don't we look at starting up something that you can really use and really kind of give back to small businesses, which I really believe is the foundation of our economy and the backbone of this country. I mean, small businesses has really kind of carried us through really hard times, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's their time to shine now, and we should all contribute and help them really be the best. Anyway, long story short, then just met up with Joshua, co-founder. We started talking. They had a product, wasn't really where it is at the moment, and we started developing out the B2C arm of it.
Okay.
And that's it, yeah.
Yeah, so I got stuck when you said in my 30s, because I'm aren't you 28?
Yeah, oh, sweet. About 20 years older than that. That's kind.
Yeah, and so now talking about the start of Adbot, tell us about that. You and Joshin, how did that start? What were you trying to build? What's been the journey so far?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. You kind of so our journey started where we saw that we had something, but we didn't really understand the value of it. So to maybe just give you some background is the tech of Adbot kind of developed almost on its own as a research project, right? So as all things, you pivot and you kind of change. So they pivoted and it changed into a B2B product. And the B2B product just couldn't get that stickiness. And then at that point is when Josh and myself started working together and figuring out what is the thing that's going to make the stickiness. And that's when we started working on a bit of the branding. As we started working and we saw people could see the value of it, especially the time-saving part, they got more and more and more into it. And that kind of started Joshua always tells the story, like it started with like the name. It was all sorts of names before as well. And then eventually people were just like in meetings saying like, yeah, it's like a bot that does your ads. And we're like, okay, well, Adbot. I mean, yeah, so I think that part is really important for an entrepreneurial journey, is that things will always change and you have to be adaptable. You have to be open and willing to not carry that idea or like thought or your business idea as a baby. You usually like explain it a lot better than I do.
Like
your idea is your baby and you just want to carry it all the way to the end.
Exactly. Because that's the mistake a lot of early stage founders make, of calling their ideas their babies. And I won't say the name, but somebody was telling me about, I can't tell you about my idea today, but because it's still in its infancy, and we even use words infancy, right? Baby. But when you call your ideas your babies, then you're stuck, you're like really attached to them, because you don't want people to tell you your baby is ugly. Right? Totally. So you don't want feedback from other people, and so you don't tell people. Because which mother would actually just abandon the baby because the baby is ugly, right?
Totally.
Yeah. And so tell us about now your fundraising journey quickly. How was that for you? What did you try? What didn't work? And then what worked?
So I wish we knew about you guys before we started, but we employed a consultant at a massive expense. Don't do that. Do this. But what was interesting about the process is, for the first time, all my ideas had to be on an Excel spreadsheet and had to have a value to it and had to have an idea of how you're going to grow that. And I think that for me was the most interesting process. So for the first time, I kind of like grasped, oh, wait a minute, this is not just me and an idea. Like, this is more than that. Like, I have this idea, we can achieve this, but now I have to sit and look at the granular and go, okay, if I spend X or if I do X, that will generate so many new customers. And those new customers are going to spend this much. And that is how I'm going to increase that much. And that for me was a really, really interesting. And this is before we even got to the investors. So we saw about, I think we had 20 meetings with 20 different investors, and they ranged. And we also kind of like, we did things wrong, like we do. You don't just get it right the first time. And we went to go and see. So we were in our seed phase, which meant we were out of the phase where we had a product market or a product. We understood that we had product market fit, but we didn't have traction as yet. So that's our phase that we were in. And we were seeing Series A VCs, and they were like, you're wasting my time.
Yes.
Go back and make money and then come see us, you know? So those were like really interesting experiences as well. But what was also amazing is, like, if you're in those sessions and you just open and you're like taking the feedback, all the advice that we got from those guys helped us kind of like either adjust the budget or the strategy or the input to make it better for the next time. And I think it was on the 20th one where we started chatting to Enigma. We actually participated last year in the same competition, and we presented, and then we were out, and then I came back. And I was like, hi, guys, remember me? Came back. And they were eventually like, okay, fine. I think that's how it was.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we do have like some other people in the audience who have been like great entrepreneurs who went through our program. We got Leletu there. He owns Candle Life and sells shoes to people in townships and rural areas, and he also raised, right? And Leletu was one of the first people in Pranary, because I was like, when we started as well, because we're a startup still. When we started, I'm just looking through, like, hey, we got a customer. Somebody paid. I called him, Leletu, you paid for this program. You haven't attended any of them. Hey, are you available? Because when mentioned it was like, is this even a real person? Or
maybe it was somebody that paid.
Yes, or somebody in the team was testing, if the payment process works. And then he came through and raised as well. And then we got Daisy Irons there, who's also building an amazing platform called Cine.
Amazing.
But we related to that is what you're saying now around when you talk to investors, then a lot of people get disheartened. Like I've only spoken to them, you've spoken to them once and say, oh, they're not asking me back, or I ask them again, they're quiet. Investors that are receiving lots of applications, and also sometimes they say, okay, let's talk again next month. It's really to see if you come back next month. Because a lot of people just disappear. So it's like, oh my gosh, imagine if we had invested. You disappear without money. What if with money? Right? So you always come back to investors and just keep them updated on what you're doing, and you will learn a lot. Now let's talk really about the marketing, digital marketing essentials. Let's talk about just like, what are the fundamentals in terms of what should people first know? Small business, what should they consider? I know you talk very much about lean forward, lean back, and all of that, but just tell us like step by step now. I'm a small business. Digital marketing. Every brother and the mother is a digital marketer. What should I ask them? What should I tell them?
So you're right. Everybody is. I have seen some very interesting advice and feedback on it. So I think it's a very difficult field, right? Because there isn't really like a qualification like engineering. Like you go study engineering, you get a certificate that says you can do engineering, right? But there's nothing that really that can tell you can do digital online marketing. There's some guys who are really smart out there who haven't really studied it or self-studied it. So it's a bit of an interesting spot. So I'm going to give you kind of like a bit of the foundations, and you can use a bit of logic. If you're an entrepreneur, you're going to be somebody that's curious, that asks questions, that's going to kind of like ask more and more questions. So hopefully this will kind of point you in the direction, and just keep asking questions. So first things first, if you want to obviously do digital advertising, you have to have a digital presence. And that could be anything. You don't have to necessarily have a website. I mean, you can have a GDN page, which is basically a very basic one-page page. If you're a plumber, for example, and you just want people to call you, you can say, I'm a plumber, this is my qualifications, these are my clients, call me. Or you can have something very sophisticated like Misha's website, where all her products are listed, and that's usually done through kind of like one of those websites platforms like Shopify and Wix and those guys. Or you can just be on social media on any one of those channels. There's some people that I know actually in Nigeria who run their online store purely on Instagram shopping, right? So it doesn't really matter where you are. The most important part is that you're online somewhere. And the most important part of that is that you're also constantly like engaging with it. So constantly refreshing what is on the page, constantly adding like new stuff or updating things that is on your page. So that is usually what any of the bots are looking for, either Facebook bots or Google bots or any of those guys, right? So firstly, you have an online presence. If you are selling anything, make sure you have a pay gate. Pay fast. Pay fast is here today, but you've got SnapScan, Yoko, all those guys. And obviously, just make sure that the one that is going to suit your needs most likely is the one that's probably the cheapest. And Mish can give you more advice of what to look at and what to do. And then once you have an online presence, I think the next part is to advertise online, right? But usually as a startup, you don't have a lot of cash, and there's so many multiple like online channels out there. How do you decide which one to be on? Now, if you have a small budget, now small budget is 10,000 Rand and less, right? So I know when you get 10,000 Rand, you're like, oh my word, this is amazing. I'm going to spend this all on all these different channels. But the thing is, 10,000 Rand isn't that much. If you think about like corporates' budgets, they're spending 100,000 Rand per channel, right? So you are with your 10,000 Rand trying to compete with that. Okay, so you've got 10,000 Rand and less. Where you really want to be is you want to be on channels where people are ready to make a decision, right? They are looking for your product or the service, and they are ready to buy. Okay, so how do you judge if a channel is a channel of intent? So I usually use this analogy, which is really easy to understand. It's called lean forward and lean back. So it's really, really simple exercise. Just imagine yourself. We're going to do like, close your eyes. Imagine. No.
Close your eyes.
No, don't close your eyes. I'm just
Imagine
joking.
you're sitting in your couch.
Okay, so imagine you are at home, right? You've had a long day. Kids are in bed, for those who have kids. And you're finally have a moment to yourself, and you're on Facebook and you're scrolling, right? What is your body posture doing? You're leaning back potentially. You have a second screen, which is TV, or maybe you're running a series at the moment, Inventing Anna.
Yes. Drive to survive.
Exactly. And you're scrolling so you're leaning back, right? At no point while you're scrolling through Facebook or Instagram or any of those social media channels are you ready to make a purchase, right? But if you have an emergency plumbing or you need a birthday present for your partner because you forgot and you immediately need somebody to drop it off now, what are you doing? You're grabbing your phone and you're sitting like this and you're going, nearest gift store or best gift for my husband. So your posture is lean forward and your mindset is a mindset of intent. So you have an intention of whatever it is that you're searching for, you're going to buy. So when you have people with a mindset of intention, the chances of them purchasing is obviously higher than somebody who's at home relaxing, just scrolling. So what you want to do with your 10,000 Rand is you want to give it its best chance of survival. So put it in the channels where people are leaning forward. And those channels are specifically Google search. It can also be WhatsApp. It also is your family group. So, hey guys, what must I buy for Christmas? What colors are we going to do for Christmas or whatever? You know, those are all kind of like groups where your posture is completely different to a relaxed posture. So that's kind of like how I usually say you select channels. So to put that in more of kind of like a theory conversation is like, social media, because it's a channel where where you're going to create awareness, right? And people aren't necessarily going to purchase on there immediately. Some people will, obviously, but that's a smaller percentage. So those channels are used to create awareness. And usually when you have an awareness campaign, the creative and all that, those elements are different to the ones that you are using when somebody is ready to purchase. Your language is different. How you show up, all that stuff is different. The one might be more pictures, more aesthetically pleasing. The other one is really like, we can help you. Like, don't worry about it. We're best in the business. We can help you. So your language also starts changing. So does that help? It's a long answer, but...
It does, definitely does. And I see that a lot of people would get disappointed because they're spending a lot of money on Facebook. But anyway, just think about it like Facebook is it's like a playground, right? Like people say, oh, we've come here to watch the show and we come here to chat and talk to people and then say, hey, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. And then people are like, oh, interesting. And then like all the clicks, the money is going. And then because they're not there to buy your stuff, when they do click and it's like, I'm really watching Inventing and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. And I click on it. It's 10 p.m. I'm not thinking of buying anything. I'll be like, oh, this is interesting. And then your money is gone. Then I go to your website and trying to see like, what is this? And then I see also that the mistake that a lot of websites make is that on your site, you're talking about you. We are the number one, this and this and this in the world. Look at our registration, this and this and this and this. Like, I need a plumber now, right? I need a plumber. You keep talking about you. Where's your contact details? Like, so that, like,
that is totally true. I always say to people, because a lot of people ask us, so if I'm doing Google search, what must I write in my ads, right? And I always say it's a conversation. So somebody is there asking a question. They're going to say, I need a plumber near me right now in the next hour, or I need a beautiful bouquet of flowers, whatever the case might be. your first title has to answer that question, right? You can't just go like, hey, I'm the best in the world. I'm the best plumber. I'm the best plumber. Can you come to me in the next hour? No.
Exactly.
Too busy. You know, so people want you to answer the question. And then in your second line, you can say like, look, we're the best and this is why we're the best. And we can be with you within the next hour. And that's exactly it. Don't be the child on the playground going like, everybody's having fun. And you're like, hey, buy this watch.
Hey. You want some stuff?
Yeah. Exactly. Like, don't be that guy, because nobody's going to buy it. And and also, like, one of the things, and people are doing lots of studies around this, is that the perception that it creates when you are kind of like that guy that constantly is like trying to sell you something, you're actually breaking down your budget, your brand perception. Yeah. So just think about that as well. If you like always put yourself in the consumer's shoes, like if you were in that playground, would you want to be sold to? No. So maybe like how else? Like, so, hey, my name is Michelle. I sell watches. You know, when you need a watch one day, like come and see me. Like the language in the certain channels are really important.
Fantastic. I like that a lot. And the other thing that I see people struggle with is like how to network in WhatsApp groups and on pages and all of that. They do the same thing of just buy my stuff, which again, for me, the analogy is like, think of it like you coming to a party, right? I've invited all of you to my house, my party, and you're meeting each other for the first time. What do people do at a party? You start talking to each other, right? Being helpful. But imagine you're this guy, like, hey, here's my flyer. Here's my business card. Hey, people like, whoa,
such a good analogy.
Like, who are you? Right? Why should I buy your stuff? Why should I? And worse, like you start DMing people. It's like, meet me outside. You know, like, you don't do that. Instead, you're helpful. Like you join the conversation, you listen in, and then if there's something you can help with, it's like, oh, Michelle, you asked this. I think I know something that the way you can get that. And people say, oh, who's this guy? This guy is helpful. And then from there, that's when people, when you say, hey, I'm having a party at my house, they say, yeah, we'll come through. Yeah. When you say that, like, now I got my website where I do this. Like, yeah, I know you. I trust you. I'll follow you. Absolutely. As opposed to first time coming to a party. Come to my party at my house. Like, whoa.
Yeah, it's so true. Like, it's so important to develop trust with your consumer, and you can only do that when you understand and when you're having a conversation. You can't do that when you're just forcefully kind of like shoving things down their throat. You're absolutely right. That analogy is spot on.
And then now talking about channels, like, so you have the lean forward, you got the lean back. How do people choose whether it's lean forward or lean back, and now you're starting with there's Facebook, Instagram, Google search, there's YouTube, there's LinkedIn, there's Twitter, there's TikTok now. How do we select?
Oh my word, TikTok. That is an interesting channel. We haven't got that figured out yet, but so I would say how you select the channels. Maybe I can do it this way. It is a practical course. So I'm going to give you some of my budgetary. Don't judge. Some budgetary kind of like examples of the last 2 months. So everything starts with what are you trying to achieve, right? So if you're trying to achieve if your KPI is to grow a brand, then obviously that's going to be a different approach and a different strategy to I am growing users and I want X amount of users to come to my platform. So it all starts with what do you want to achieve? And once you know what that is, then you can start plotting out where you want to be. So for us, we want as many users as possible, as quickly as possible. That is our KPI, and we're very ambitious of what we want to do and how to get there. So we are investing a lot. So let's say we've got 100,000 Rand. So 80,000 Rand, we invest all in Google search, right? And what we then get for that 80,000 Rand is then leads that come to our website. We get from that 400 leads, and then it's up to us to convert those leads. So say we take 20,000 Rand, and we've taken 20,000 Rand and we spend it on Instagram, right? So on Instagram, what we do there, and Facebook, it's a combination, because if you spend on the one, it goes to the other one as well. You just tick a box. And So what we do there is that we have tried to drive awareness, but with kind of like a little bit of a hook so that you can come and use the platform. And what we found is that if we look at Google gives us, for our money, gives us 450 leads, right? But Instagram for the 20,000 is only giving us like 7, sometimes 5, right? And then what we do is we kind of like go back at the end of the month and we say, okay, is this channel really giving us and achieving our KPIs? If the answer is yes, we keep with it. If the answer is no, we don't. And that comes back to maybe something that I think is really important, is to test as many channels as possible against your KPI. Because we don't know all the channels, like we don't even know the channels either. So we've just started experimenting with TikTok, for example, and we're getting massive amounts of leads. They're not the right leads, but it's really interesting to kind of like test. So you take a small amount, maybe 500 Rand, put some messaging together, test it for a week, evaluate that information, and then figure out, is this working, isn't this working, and then continue it on for the next week or not. And I think those sessions are really important. So number one, I would say, start with your KPI, what do you want to achieve? Then split up your budget between lean forward and lean back. So obviously if you're creating awareness or you're building your brand, do a lot of lean back channels. If you're wanting users, do lean forward channels. And then the last thing is test and test and test. Can I quickly do an example? Literally last month, we ran a previous campaign. Google gave us some vouchers, 1,000 free vouchers. Everybody's super excited. So we're like, okay, great. We're going to do this campaign where everybody's going to get 1,000 Rand for free in month 1. And people signed up all over the world. Like they were just so excited about this thing. So we were like, okay, cool. Our audience definitely likes bargains, free stuff. Okay, so what we're going to do is in the next month, we don't have as much because Google said they're not going to give us the vouchers anymore. We'll take Lelemba's money and put 500 Rand free. So you pay 500, we pay 500, right? Silence, nothing. Same channels, same budget, nothing. Our audience hated it. So that's why. So and the thing is now, if you didn't listen or kept an eye on it, we would wait for a month and then go, did it work, didn't work. Luckily, we saw that it wasn't working in week 1. And we were like, stop everything. Team meeting. Okay, what are we going to do? This is not working. Let's see. Okay, change it. Then we started looking at like million different options. So then eventually we came to a point where we were like, okay, we believe in you. We believe that you are the future. SMEs are the future, and we're going to help you, and we're going to give you 500 Rand. You pay 500, we pay 500, and let's do this thing together. And that worked. So it's really absolutely critically important to test everything, because you think you've learned something from a campaign before, but unless you actually put it into reality, there's no way that you're going to know. And the key is to learn fast. Learn quickly, change quickly. That's that adaptability. And put it back into the market. And then you'll start kind of like seeing some changes.
Absolutely. I love that. And also our observation also has been that now like you're doing that with Adbot, but then Adbot would handle like Google, the AI and all of that. And then on other channels, we find that a lot of times the people saying I'm a digital marketer, they start changing things like they just put an ad today, and then tomorrow they're changing it already, and the next day they're changing it already. But now the algorithm does a lot of that modification for you, which Adbot does. Right? But if you don't give it enough time, you can't learn to see that, okay, Sanders was on his computer, and on his computer you buy. When Sanders is on his phone, he does not buy. And then it starts showing different ads based on where I'm seeing that from.
Absolutely. And I think so I think the AI does what I've just explained, like us learning and adapting quickly, but they do it for repetitive tasks. No robots. So this is like really important to know. Your value is in your creativity and your strategy. How are you going to grow this business? It's not in how many repetitive tasks can you do in a day. All startups. This is critical. So as many repetitive tasks that you can give away to a bot or somebody else, do that. Focus on growing your business, focus on figuring out what is the next steps. Anyway, to get back to kind of like the point, what the bot does is the bot actually does exactly what you're saying. Like, it looks at what is the behavior out there, what are people searching for, what are people kind of like putting into their search, how are they writing the ads? And then it uses that information to start predicting what is the future going to be like. Because if you start predicting what people are going to click on, you're going to alter the copy slightly, you're going to add more keywords. And what's really amazing about the product as well, about Adbot, is that it only deducts money when somebody clicks on your ad. So you can appear as many times as possible, and it will do combinations of keywords and copy combinations. Now, it sounds very similar to what we did previously, right, with the messaging. But unfortunately, fortunately for us, bots don't have context, but they have kind of like an idea of words, and they can do combinations of words, but they can't do context. So that's kind of like what the bot does. It figures out what is currently happening, and then it starts predicting for the future, and it uses your inputs, your keywords inputs, and your copy, and it changes it, and it.
You should try out Adbot. It's like magic.
It
You log in like, oh, these are your recommended keywords. Do you accept? Accept? Nah. Like, oh yeah, yes, yes, no, no. So for instance, for us, like, we learned that if we say investment, if somebody is looking for investment, they're more likely to come to an event like this and to follow up and take a program. Whereas if somebody says, I'm looking for funding, they're looking for free money.
Yes.
Just like, just that, investment versus funding. Like, I'm looking for funding. Like, really, just give me money.
That's so interesting.
You're like, huh. Yeah.
But yeah, that's true. Like, it's such small kind of like little kind of like nuances that we probably wouldn't be able to pick up, because there's so many like task-orientated things that you have to do in the backup. But luckily, the machine picks it up. Cool.
Fantastic. A big hand for Michelle, please. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Michelle.